Hello everyone, this is June and I'm back again to share my views, my thoughts and my ideas on a topic, my all-time favorite topic on mindfulness. In my previous podcast, I shared that why mindfulness is so important to invite in our lives. And what is it all about and how it is beneficial for us, and not just for us adults, but how mindfulness is so important to be there in the lives of students as well. So here I am wanting to share that how can we connect mindfulness and education together. So mindfulness education, how does it sound? Well, don't you think that it sounds like the purposeful inclusion of mindfulness in the education system that will bring a lot of changes, in the world of education? The goals of mindfulness education are to help students learn self-awareness, and this is exactly what I shared in my earlier podcast, that awareness is what we really need to pay attention to. What we majorly lack is awareness. Therefore, it is so important to instill the whole idea of awareness from an early stage. So, mindfulness education shall not only help students be aware, but it will also help them to exercise empathy and techniques to calm and focus the mind. But based on a new study which has suggested that mindfulness education, lessons on techniques to calm the mind and the body, it can easily reduce the negative impacts of stress. And it increases the students' ability to stay engaged and focused. And guess what? It also helps them to be more creative in their work. It accentuates and it helps them to better their performances. Most importantly, it helps them to stay on track academically and avoid behavioral problems. Now, don't you think that all of these are just good enough to include mindfulness in our education system? So the next question might be that how can I incorporate mindfulness practices in my classroom? What can I do? Simple. There's nothing really that you will have to do, something out of the way or anything fancy. Just bring the compassion and positivity into your teaching practice, and trust me, you will witness transformation and a progress and a transition in the lives of the students, which in the long run they shall be forever thankful to you. So let us quickly look into the ways and how you can bring mindfulness into your classrooms. First and foremost, just ask them to close their eyes, let them sit comfortably, and let them observe their breath. You can switch off the lights, you can create an environment, you can play a nice, soft, soothing music. And you just tell them to close their eyes for a minute or 2 or 3 minutes, good enough. And just tell them that how do they feel? How does their breath feel? Have we ever thought of observing our breath? this idea, it's so simple, and it will make them wonder that never in the past they could have thought of doing something so simple yet so fascinating. It's wonderful actually, and you can start with the little ones. You don't really have to wait for your students to be 10 years old or 11 years old. You can start this practice right as early as 2.5 years, 3 years, 3.5 years with the very young learners. Secondly, you can create some activity which will compel them to be in the present moment, as simple as a 5 to 10 minute activity. You can ask them to choose any object that they see around them. Just pick one or choose one and allow them to observe what is it that they observe about that object. Something they must have never noticed earlier, but what do they experience now? What do they see now? It could also be that you can take them outdoors. It can be an outdoor activity also. They can just go out and they can pick anything of their choice, maybe a twig or a leaf, flower, petal, or even a piece of paper, whatever. And while you're conducting this activity, when you ask for the responses, I promise you, you will be amazed to hear their answers. And that itself trains the mind to be in the present moment. You are there, you are here right now, and there's nothing that you're focusing at. The next is stop and think. So the stop and think activity could be as simple as when the bell rings, let's say from one period to another, you can just tell them that whenever the bell rings, the school bell rings, or as simple as a teacher, whenever you ring a bell, they will just have to stop whatever they are doing and they need to think. They need to think how they are feeling at that moment, at that very moment. And it's fun. It's also make them aware, because the bell can, you can just ring the bell at any point of time, and don't become predictable. Use positive affirmations. This works wonders. And positive affirmations you can also include in your classroom rules, and every day just go through this affirmation. Let them say it aloud, because when they are saying it aloud, they are listening, and when they're listening to their voice and those words and sentences over and over again, that has an impact in their brains, and it becomes a part of their thought process, and the behavior automatically falls into place. And how exactly they have been affirming, in no time they just start behaving, and most importantly they start thinking in the same manner. And how wonderful is that? Next is, please ensure that you make them practice to write journals. Could be a reflective journals about how the day has been, or it can be a gratitude journal. And I would say that if you can incorporate both, then it's absolutely fabulous, because reflective journal will help you to evaluate how your lessons, or how the class, or how the student has fared, and what the students actually think about the whole day and what's going in their mind. So that gives a great opportunity for the teacher as well as for the students to reflect their thoughts about the whole day or about a particular lesson. Now you can set the rules for that. And gratitude journal is, again, you train them to be thankful for every small thing that has happened to them throughout the day, which includes any negative incident also, because you have to let them know that if something unpleasant that has happened to them during the day, be thankful for that, because that unpleasant incident has also taught them something which they should be avoiding or they should not be doing in the near future. So every incident in our life, doesn't matter what the nature is, always gives us a lesson and makes us better. And the more grateful we are for everything, the more prosperity and more goodness and magic we can invite in our lives, and which is true. And finally, well, the list can go on, but at this moment I'm just sharing the last one, but I'm sure you can have more. You can find many online, but there are many mindfulness resources. Like, for example, there are mindfulness artwork where you give them, and there are intricate artwork and coloring that needs to be done, and they can do that. So you can have that little period or little time where you can make them do that bit of artwork. And as I said, that there are many other worksheets which is designed keeping in mind the mindfulness in it. You can take a printout and you may implement in your classroom based on how your curriculum is laid, and how much time you have and when you can incorporate. So teachers, get ready. If you really want to make a big shift in your classroom and you want to see that change in your teaching, yes, I'm sure we all know so many techniques, especially every 21st century teachers must know, with all the techniques and the methods in mind. Plus, adding mindfulness will only add more and more goodies in your kitties, and that's a promise to you. So what are you waiting for? As a teacher, you must also practice mindfulness and just help your class students, your learners, to practice the same. Help them, because mindfulness provides many physical and psychological benefits. Hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you will try out some of the examples shared with you guys today, and I'll come back to you again, maybe with the same topic and more information, or maybe on another topic completely. Thank you guys for listening to me. All the best.